Good afternoon, everybody. DJ Styles here at Custom Corpses. Okay, I'm on camera. First off, I want to shout out to my buddy Stilt B Studios, Alan Hops. If it wasn't for this man right here, I wouldn't know half of what I know. If you guys are a fan of doing this type of thing, you want to check this guy out, man. I'm telling you, unbelievable. Alan Hops, he is a huge fan of making monsters. He's not a big fan of doing Michael Myers or movie-made or movie creatures. He's more of an originalist. I get it. I really wouldn't mind being there myself. But he also runs a haunt in Texas, and his business is the haunting business. It's not so much the mask making business. He makes masks, but he does so much more. And if you guys really love it, I think the one thing that's very unique about Alan is he finds ways to do things cheap. You know, he's always looking for the cheaper way. And he's just so innovative, I love the man. Alan, this is for you, buddy. And anybody watches my videos, you want to definitely check out Alan Hops at Stilt B Studios. And you want to catch his live stream is really good. You know, it's really cool. He'll be on live and he'll go 2-3 hours sometimes. Not so much now because he's really busy for the haunt. I know that he's really going nuts right now, but you want to definitely check out, and you can watch all his old videos too. Tons of those. He's been on YouTube for well over 10 years, so he's got a lot of videos. So there's a lot to learn from that man, and thank God he's not selfish with the knowledge. And just like him sharing his knowledge, I'm sharing my knowledge, and I'm not basically telling you anything more than he'll tell you. Only I'm using monster clay here, and what I'm going to try and do right now, hopefully I'm in frame, I'm going to cut up the pieces of wet clay and make the barrier wall. All right, the seam has to be right down the center of the head. Now the thing that's very important is you got to find the highest point, all right, and that's where that clay wall is going to be. Wherever that peak point is, that's where the clay wall has to be, because you don't want to get what they call lock. In other words, if I'm too far back, I won't be able to pull the front off. If I'm too far forward, I won't be able to pull the back off because it'll get caught up on the high spots. You get what I'm follow me? So the first portion of this is cutting up the clay, and my method is I make my barrier walls very thick. I don't like them too thin because then I got to put supports on it and everything else. I'd rather make my wall nice and thick and about that high off the sculpture, and then make it all the way around, which is going to be about there. And I'm going to do the back half first, and I'm going to do a well. It's going to be a clay catch. It'll be shaped just like that, and it'll catch the plaster. It'll catch the plaster right here, and that'll create a nice well for when I go to flip this over. Well, I'll just get to it. Let's do this. Let's get started. I'm going to cut this clay. I'm going to move that camera so you can see what I'm doing with the clay and the unique tool that I don't know if I found that online. I saw somebody using something like that, but if I did, great. Shout out to that person for coming up with this innovative technique on cutting the right thickness of clay. All right, let's get it over. Let's get to the moving the camera where it needs to be. This is part 2. Let me see, I gotta make sure I'm in frame here. I think I'm in frame. Yeah, okay. I think we're good here. Okay, so let's do this. Now I beat down on this clay a little bit, try to square it up, you know, when I'm just going to cut this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to pull this bag down away from the clay. And you see that I got it somewhat squared up. All right. Now this is wet clay. It's a water-based clay, and I like to use this as my barrier wall because one, it's very cheap. I don't want to put this type of clay for a barrier. You can, but that clay sticks to itself, and you have to push it down quite a bit to get a nice seal. And this is easier to work with. Now these sticks, you notice the notches in them. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this, move this over just a little bit. Oh, that's heavy. Okay. I'm going to put this here. You see where those notches are? All right. So the sticks are the exact same size, and the notches are placed in the exact same locations as far as measurement goes. Now what you want to do is you want to bring down, hold it, I got to figure out where it's going to be, my first cut. Okay, it's going to be the second notch down. All right, and I wrap that one, and I hold this just into that notch. Then I just kind of pull this right through, and that gives me a nice level cut. See how nice and level that is now? All right, now I'm not using that piece, so I'll be putting that back into the thing, but I want to get this cut fast. Now I have to figure out how thick I want to make these cuts. I'm going to say at least 2 notches. Do 2 notches down. And I'll tell you why. Wait a minute, I did that already. I have to go down further. Silly me. All right, so we're going to go 2 notches thick. Come on. You have to go down 2 notches. Come on, get on there. And of course, I don't have the plastic down far enough. Now what I'll do is I'll make my barrier come on, get in the hole. Just wrapping it once. Make sure that I'm back in the notch. Because if you're not back in the notch, you're not going to be level. See, it's jumping out of that notch. There we go. Now we're on the notch. All right, that's level. That thickness is perfect for what I'm going to do. Now what I'm going to do now, let me stick that slab back on there, and I'm going to cut this up into the exact thickness of how thick I want my walls. It's already about the right height. I'm using a paint trowel, a paint scraper. That's all I'm doing here. All right. And the first thing I'm going to do is the nice smooth wall. Let's put it right up top and bend it around. That's the first piece. Now by doing this, and I'm right at the top of the head, By doing it this way, making sure that the wall's nice and thick. Oh, wait a minute. I took you out of frame. All right. You see how I'm cutting the pieces. Now I'm going to put the camera back on the top of the head. The first piece I put on there was right at the top of the head, right where the dividing line is going to be. Now the part that I cut nice and flat is facing the back because we're going to put the mortar on the back first. But first I got to make sure that this is sucked down all the way around this thing. Yes, sir. And then I'll flatten out. I'll make this even better when you'll see. I don't have to worry about this falling forward or anything because I made this thick enough. It's very important to do that. Now I'm out of frame right now. I'm cutting the next pieces. Some like to use less clay. I just think it's easier to use a lot of clay. I can always put this right back in place once I have this where it needs to be. All right, so the side pieces have to be small pieces that I need to add as I go. I'm trying to keep it, you know what, excuse my glasses because I can't see real close without. The wall doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to make sure that seam is lined up. And no barrier. And I'll show you how I square that up once I get to the ears and so on and so forth. Okay. Now you're not trying to stick this into the ear too strongly. You don't want that to happen. I'm just going to make sure that nothing falls out. All right, and here on this ear, I'm going to build the ear out on the back side of this and follow the circumference of the ear and then come down the neck here. I won't go any further forward with this. It's not necessary, but I have to pack the ear out. So this way the seam runs behind the ear. Phew, I'm sweating like crazy, man. And I'm tired. Because I've been at it already for a long time. So what I'm doing here, I gotta make sure that this line behind the ear, there's no grab. Okay. You have to go a little bit. Wet clay is the best clay to use for making barrier walls because you really have to have a nice wall you'll see when I get to the finish line with this how easy my process is. All right, so I only need a little bit here. I'm taking you out of camera, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. What I'm working on right now is making sure now I think that's a catch there. I may have to, yeah, I have to bring that forward a little bit. Give me a second here, folks. You're not going to miss anything. I'm going to show you what I did. Now, it does not matter what the front of this thing looks like on this side, on the face side, because the only thing that matters right now is the back side of this. That has to be sealed nice. And we are sealed up like a drum here on this side. I got a little bit of work to do. Gotta make sure there's no leakage. You know, we still got the keys to make. I still gotta thicken up these side walls. You will see the process. Okay, next chunk of clay. Come on, put it on the flat plate. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Come on, stuck to the plate. Okay. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to pack out this ear. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with this ear. I got to make sure that the seam runs behind this ear. Let me take a look at that. I gotta make sure I get all the wet clay off of that. I'm gonna use a little bit of water on my finger to get this wet clay off. Walking out of frame, make sure you go into the dirty bucket. All right, now I can take off that wet clay with my wet fingers off that ear. I don't want any of that clay on the ear. Now, take a look at that. See what I did with the ear? See what I'm doing here? I'm making sure I got a, and it's very important that I don't have this wall too far forward or too far back, because I can't have it's got to be able to pull away. So I have to do both sides of this. And it doesn't matter what the front looks like. The most important thing about this process is making sure that your back side, the first side that you're gonna put the mold on. Yeah, bleh. I'm not talking too straight because I'm very tired, and I can see where I have to push this down. The front doesn't matter, it's the back that matters. And I'll show you what I'm going to do to make sure that I have a very square edge. So that's a very stable wall by doing what I did here. You know. Okay. Now I got to figure out where my high spot is on this neck. You see it? Okay. Comes in right about there. All right. I'll add clay to this. Oops. Biggest thing is making sure that I am It is hot. Sorry for not talking. I'm concentrating. Make sure that this is really going to be spot on, baby. Don't have to be pretty either. Don't think it has to be pretty. It doesn't have to be pretty. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot. There we go. Dividing wall does not have to be pretty. You want to try and make it as square as you can, as flush as you can. And you'll see what I'm going to do. Once I put the keys in, with the extra clay, there ain't much there, so I won't have to do much to the base. Actually, you know what I should do right there? I should put that and rest that right on the top of the shoulder there. I'll put another piece of clay right in there. And that starts the catch at the bottom. Okay. We don't need a real high wall. I'm going to make it uniform. And you'll see as we go along here. Okay, we're going to use a little of this slab. Because the well, that's what I'm calling this, the well on the back. Doesn't have to be what's the right word? Because I'm so hot and tired. It doesn't have to be perfect. The biggest area that you want to make sure is it's catching all the yeah, I'm not the neatest when it comes to this. It doesn't matter. Woo! Man, I'm hot. I'm a hot dude right now. Alright, so I'm going to have to cut some more. It's important that you support this base, because if you don't clay this up good, what will happen is the weight of the stone will push that right down on you, and you will have a problem. So I got to go down a little thicker. I need more clay. my water bottle. I just had it in my hand. There it is over there on the other side of the sculpture. I just want to make sure that I keep water on the clay. Just enough to, I'll do the front too. But you see what I'm doing? I'm making a well right here, so when the plaster runs down, it'll catch right in here and be nice and thick around the neck area. I got to support it underneath with the clay, or we'll have issues. From the bottom. Bags in the way. Get on there. Gotta make sure you're in the grooves, because if you're not in the grooves, you're not going to get an even cut. That's the only problem with doing this method. Piece of slab. Okay, so now we can really get some work done here, because the base is important. Come on, get off the plate. Okay, I'm getting there. We're almost done this process. I know I'm taking you off camera, so you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm going to show it to you all when I get it completely supported in the back. because it's real important. Real important to support this back area. You don't have to use the clay anymore. After you do this one step, no more clay, no more wet clay. You just have to make sure that your well is catching that okay. I'm using quite a bit of wet clay, trust me. But I use a lot because I'll be able to salvage it all. And I'll be able to salvage it all, because I do keep it moist while I'm doing this. Just want to make sure you get all the chunks of plaster out of it before you go and put it back in your bag. Okay, a little bit more right in here, and then I can work on making the barrier even. Now, you see this little tool that I have here? I cut this as a plastic. This is like a little plastic trowel. And what I do is I try to cut it as square as possible, which is this end. And I go back through here. And I take off that clay. Try not to scrape the not to scrape your mat, your sculpture. It's a very delicate process. We're going to go straight on. See how it's square right here? I'm not really scraping this. All right, I still got this ear to do over here. And I want to smooth out as much as I can. You definitely want to make sure that the clay is up against your wall. Because okay, a little water might help with this. All right, now I'm going to thicken this wall a little bit more in here. Just because, just because I can, and it just gives me a little extra support, and knowing that I am going the extra mile. It's not good. I didn't get the back side done right. All right, let's see if I can fix this. It's not pretty, but it'll be efficient. Doesn't matter how pretty it is. You want to make it real pretty, go for it. I don't want to waste my time on that. I'm going to make it what I need it to be. And that is stable. And a good barrier wall. I won't even take that all the way up, to tell you the truth. All right, so I gotta light's not real good over here. All right, you know what I gotta do? I need to clean the tool a little bit. I think wood's a little better of a tool to use because the wet clay sticks to the plastic pretty good. So see if I can get in there. Okay. Just gotta make sure these barrier walls are Ooh, I'm telling you, it's hot out here. I got to get this process done pretty quick. Now, I still got to put that ear. I got to pop this. I got to make sure this ear is packed out. I like the seam to run back behind the ear rim because I don't want to see the seam on the front of the ear. So I make sure that the seam is literally okay. That ear's packed out. Now what I want to do is pack out this area. Not by much. Clean my hands, and now I gotta make sure the edge is perfectly done. This side has to be packed out just a little more too. I'm going to throw a little more on this, make it more even. It's hot, guys. It's getting real hot now. I'm running out of steam and I gotta get this done. I am running out of steam and I have to get this done. I cannot stop at this point. Okay, so I need to make keys. think I need to put a little bit more clay right in here though. And instead of cutting slabs, I'm just going to cut a piece off of this. Thicker piece. What the hell that is? Oh, I think it's that pieces of burlap that got into my hands here. I'm just smoothing this out, making it a little nicer. A lot of work, man. Pushing that well wall up a little bit. Okay. Now let me give it a real once over. Okay, so that's pretty much ready for molding, other than putting the keys in, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. I'll be right back. I got to go grab a sculpting tool. Oh my goodness, I'm tired. Okay, so I'm going to use this little homemade scoop that I make, these tools that I make. And I'm going to put register keys in this all the way around, every so many inches. And you'll see what they're for. I gotta scrape this a little more. Bear with me, guys. Oh, Jesus. So you don't want to have any area that might create a, how can I get that out of there? The light's good over here. I can do this really nice over here. Okay. This is tough, guys. This heat is not easy. And I almost want to take a break before I start plastering this. I'm just going to have to wing it. I'm very tired. Very tired. Got to make sure this is right, though. I really do. Very important to get this seam as square as possible. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, that's as close as I'm going to get it, and I think I'm pretty close. So, clean my hands. do these register keys real quick. The base doesn't need it. The only thing I need register keys on is right Now I'll show you what I'm doing, if I can. All right, you see here, I'm putting this thing in here just a little bit and just spinning it. All right, just a little bit, not too deep. And pulling it out. See that little perfect hole that I'm making? All right. And you need that pretty close to the head. You don't want it too far away from the head. And they're called register keys. And they're important because once you make the second half of the mold, that'll make it so the two pieces come together with no problem. All right. All I'm doing is sticking it in and then twirling it. You see me do that. That's right. Okay. I'm going to wet this. Now I'm going to take a little break. They don't have to be real deep. You don't want them too deep. You're just trying to make it so stuff lines up. I want to make sure I clean my sculpture a little bit. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to do right now is put this clay away because we're done with it. All right. Squirt it down just a little bit, especially the bag part. I'm squirting the clay that I just took out of this bag. All right. I used almost probably a good 20 pounds of clay there. Wet the side of the bag pretty good. Now, what did I do with my, there it is. Need my tie. And then, because I'm going to take a break, I'm going to wet down the sculpture a little bit. And the clay that's on it. And that'll keep it from getting too hot. And I have to clean the top of this head off just a little bit. It's got I don't want no clay on this surface anywhere where I'm going to mold that, because if any of that wet clay is on there, it'll cause a little bump. So I'll use a towel. I'll use a towel for that. That's what I'll do to wipe off that wet clay. I got to be careful that I don't use a towel that will leave marks in the clay. But that's where I'm at, and I'm going to take a break, guys. I need a break bad. Yes, I do. This old man's tired, baby. This old man is tired. Okay, so let's take a quick glance at it. That's the perfect dividing line right down the middle of the head, down behind the ears. As you can see, the register keys are in there. Once I cast that mortar on there, plaster, once I put the plaster on there, then I have to let that plaster harden. Then I peel the clay off. I put Vaseline all over the other side and release. Well, let's get to let's just do one part at a time. I don't want to go too crazy, fill you with too much information, but this is part 2 of the mold process. Hope you enjoy it. Long video, but I don't do the editing. I don't do editing. This way you get informed better. So enjoy.